Welcome, world, to Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness movement. I am Reverend Sandy Rogers, and as the creator of this historic event, it is my pleasure to welcome you. We come together to bring you this historic event. We have practitioners, holistic practitioners, we have medical doctors, we have spiritual individuals. This event is so lovingly dedicated to my mother, Mrs. Barbara Dean Brown. And my mother taught me like 40 plus years ago about the importance and the meaning behind herbs. And she would always say, we don't know what they putting in those pills, so you better not, get hooked on prescription drugs. And so we listened to Mom, but not all of us paid attention. My sister, bless her heart, was diagnosed recently thereafter with asthma, and she was prescribed prednisone, which is a very powerful steroid. And my sister actually got hooked on steroids, like someone out on the street kind of hooked, like on heroin or crack or something like that. And so my mom and my sister are both on the other side, living in the other dimension, but they're upholding me, and this is dedicated to their memory. So we don't want to come and make you change your mind about what you're doing. We just want to provide information to you, something different, so that you have options to choose from, so that you're not stuck. Because the environment that we now live in, the fast foods, the toxins in the air that we breathe and in the water that we drink, and the processed foods, and all of that is causing havoc on this precious body temple. So God created our bodies to heal themselves, but they can only heal themselves when they're fed and they're nourished and they're stress-free. And so the 60 or so or more experts that we have are bringing you this worldwide wellness movement in an attempt to share their testimonies and their information with you. So we have from age 14 on up. I don't even know what the oldest age is. I think 88 or something. So you see, that's a wide range of knowledge that we're bringing you. And so we hope that you come and that you get all the knowledge that you need to affect a positive change on your life, and share this with others. It's free, it's online, and so we're just so thankful that you decided to be a part of our listening community, the viewing community, and we certainly appreciate you for giving us your time of day and your energy and your efforts to being with us and to being a part of this historic event. We have pulled together people of color for you, by you, right? So we want to make sure that you understand that we too, melanated people with color, can enjoy, practice, and participate in some of these modalities that others have been doing for centuries, and that is pretty new to our community. So we talk about Qigong, we talk about meditation, yoga, spiritual work from a different perspective than religion. So we talk about the spirituality aspect. We talk about abuse in the families. We talk about all kinds of subjects because we know that in our communities there are layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that we never talk about that's causing a negative effect on our bodies and its healing process. So we address it, whatever it is, and we hope that you will benefit from the many experts that we have, and that you walk away with lots of knowledge and lots of new information, and that you become fully empowered to share information with others. So thank you for being with us. We love you and we bless you, and we look forward to doing this again. But thanks for being here with the first one. We appreciate you.
Life, love, and wellness. Life, love, and wellness.
today with Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness movement. And we have the honor and the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Khadijah Asghari in her office, in her beautifulness. Would you, Dr. Asghari, introduce yourself to the listening community? Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, your background, where you're from, your family life even.
Okay, great. I'd love to, and thanks for being here with me. It's just an honor to be in your presence always. So thank you again for being here. So I'd like to sort of just start by saying that, I see wellness as a continual journey. So the journey for me actually started with having to adjust and deal with situations in my own health, my own life, and with my family. I'm a mother of 5 children. And I come from the typical African American family where we had people with high blood pressure and diabetes and being overweight and arthritis and those kind of things, always represented to me kind of like a desire to help my family be healthier and help them be better. And of course, that translates into helping our community and our society at large. The interesting thing is that most of the women in our family are like pretty healthy and have a history of longevity. I just buried my aunt who was 99, and a couple of years ago we had an aunt who reached 92, and they were all active and walking and jumping and would challenge you to a race any day of the week, those kinds of things. And it was the men in the family who typically had the hypertension, diabetes, being overweight, arthritis, and cancer, and those kinds of things. So my father passed away from mesothelioma, and he also had prostate cancer and diabetes and hypertension. He was overweight, so it was particularly near and dear to me to kind of help us address some of those chronic issues. I saw the challenges that he went through with the typical medical industry, just sort of addressing symptoms and not helping him actually achieve the kind of wellness and quality of life that he really wanted to share in his later years with his family of 10 children. So I started off at the Morehouse School of Medicine here in Atlanta with my medical studies. I was in their charter class. I always tease people and say, yeah, I'm a Morehouse man, because we didn't have the School of Medicine at that time. We were actually Morehouse students. It was a 2-year program, and so I had to complete my studies at Emory University, and so that's ultimately where I got my medical degree, although Morehouse did honor us with an honorary degree as well. My passion really was with the children, so I pursued a pediatric residency at Emory University affiliated hospitals like Grady and what's now known as Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And then I went into practice in a neighborhood community health center, which is still around today, which is Southside. Okay, so I've been practicing medicine for over 30 years. Okay, and so I was listening to moms tell me how their children just weren't getting better, and we would start seeing an increase in things in our community, particularly like inability to focus, or what's called attention deficit disorder, an increase in things like cognitive behavior disorders and autism. And so I wanted to find out what really was going on. Why were we seeing this increase in things? And that led me to my study of nutrition and wellness and homeopathic modalities, as well as other complementary medical modalities as well. So I've been studying homeopathy, other nutritional services as well. I have an advanced clinical nutritional practitioner degree as well, and also degrees in homeopathy. So I've integrated all those into our practice so that we can address these chronic illnesses that we're not addressing with traditional medicine, and help people actually live healthier and amazing lives and achieve a state of wellness that allows them to contribute their gifts amazingly to the world.
Great, thank you so much. So you've been at it for 30 years. You're sure 30?
A little bit more than 30, but we ain't gonna tell exactly how much over 60 we are, okay?
You don't look it at all. Mm-hmm. So your practice of what you're doing or helping with others shows in your quality of life, because you look so vibrant and so young.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. and 5 children too. So. You were telling us about the different modalities that you are engaged in. Can you tell us the importance of the modern allopathic the naturopathic and or ancestral healing?
Yeah, so here, what I try to emphasize to people is that we want to take sort of a holistic or integrative approach with mind, body, and spirit. So when we talk about that, we talk about mind and body and spirit. When we talk about spirit, we have to understand the importance of our ancestors and how important they are in our healing as well. Because there are things that are not genetic, but can be generationally traced, from our ancestors to our current generation of people. So that's going to be done on a spiritual level as well as a physical level as well.
And the allopathic practice, as we know it, does that really serve the needs of when you're looking at a holistic approach to?
So that's always been like sort of like a dynamic for me that continually changes. And so one of the things when I started out that I was really proud of is, like I would tell people, we're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. We're going to take the best of both worlds, the best of the East and the West, or the best of allopathic and complementary modalities as well. And so I still have that leaning, but my basic philosophy is in the body's ability to heal and repair itself. And if we can catch the children early enough and give their body what it needs to continually make healthier and healthier cells and achieve its full potential, meaning what? Nutrition, whole foods, and avoiding the things that sort of stress or bother the body, toxic things that's in our environment, whether it's the lotion that they're using, soap powder, things that we're breathing in the air, the fluoride in the water. If we can minimize those kind of things and improve the fuel that the body needs to heal and repair itself and make healthier and healthier cells, we can avoid a lot of the things that we quote unquote don't want to throw away, the baby with the bathwater kind of stuff. So you can avoid the need to have an antibiotic shot, or you can avoid the need to have an asthma treatment, and hopefully you can avoid the need to have surgery and those kinds of things. Some acute things are unavoidable. Somebody breaks a leg, unless we go over to the motherland and get the people who know how to do that kind of healing, we have to go to the orthopedics or to the emergency room and get a cast set and those kind of things. But we still can incorporate things that help the body heal and repair itself. Those things are addressing the symptom and can assist us, but we want the body to really keep that energy and the knowledge that it's innate intelligence to heal and repair itself. So we may add some homeopathic remedy like symphonitum. We may emphasize to the caretakers, to the mother and father, like this is not the time to reward him with a popsicle. The traditional thing, you go to the hospital, something happened, they give you sugar. Okay, that don't make too much sense because it causes inflammation. So we don't want to do those kinds of things.
Well, great. So you mentioned your travels to Africa, or going to Africa for our additional knowledge in the medical field. So tell us, how did your travels to Africa, how did that change your perspective or your way of treating and teaching your patients?
Well, it gave me a tremendous amount of respect for the human body as well, and for the need for proper nutrition. So the way I got over to Africa was pretty interesting. My son decided to do wanted to be an exchange student for a spiritual trip. And so he went over to Africa, and the culture shock was like a little bit much for like a city kid. So he was trying to pull on mommy's, little heartstrings and get home early, because one of the deal when he went was that you were going to complete the program. It was expensive. I know you're going way over there, but you're not going to go over there and stay a week and come home. So after a little while, he decided that he was going to pull on mommy's heartstrings and play sick, like, something's going on. So he called me and he was like, Mom, I'm so sick. If I die over here, it's okay. I love you. Just bury me in Africa, And of course, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And it just so happened how the universe would play is that I had a hard time reaching like the administrator of the school and people to give me a good idea of exactly what was going on. Because while I'm calling people, the administrator of the school, I'm packing a suitcase, okay? I'm on the next plane smoking for Africa, right? So I didn't take any clothes. I took about 2 suitcases, 70 pounds each of allopathic medicine, anything I could think of for tropical medicine, stuff for malaria, stuff for parasites, anything I could think of that I thought I might need, I put in that bag, and I took the next flight smoking Delta to Senegal, West Africa. Okay. And needless to say, to make a long story short, I go off the plane and I go to the dormitory and I see my son bopping around like playing soccer, like, oh man, y'all ain't tell me my mom was coming. And so then I was stuck with all this allopathic things that, okay, they're here, how can I make use of it? So that sort of started my journey in trying to sort of like repay my debt to the motherland, so to speak, and start a healing institution there that we call Shifa Al-Askam Holistic Medical Center. Shifa means the healers of sickness, and so that's how that program got started. So I traveled back and forth to Africa for approximately about 11 years and spent a sensitive amount of time actually living there. And while I was a resident there, things would come in that I didn't understand. And so, I think I had the motherly intuition to realize that these people existed long before I got here. So they may know a little bit about like how to keep on existing. So I would say like, well, what do y'all usually do with this? I don't have the medicine for this. What do y'all usually do for this? And so we got into the mode of really collaborating with traditional healers and herbal healers and things there. And so we brought things to the table like how to clean up some of these herbal remedies. And they definitely share with us their knowledge of things that can help us with the body's ability to heal and repair itself. Things like neem oil, things like moringa, indigenous to the African continent, and those kind of things. But my passion is the kids. That's me. Even through med school, I was known as the mother. So the kids I love children. They just sort of tug at my heart. That's my spirit. They touch my inner child, and I love my inner child to play. And so I end up being a pediatrician. But with this knowledge of integrative health, with homeopathy and design clinical nutritional programs and nutrition response testing, we were able to address the needs of everybody. Because what I found out is that if I just, particularly here in America, or really anywhere, just focus on the mother, then it was difficult for them to implement the kind of plans that I was recommending, the design clinical nutritional programs, because they didn't have firsthand knowledge of how that would improve their child's health. So when I incorporated the mother into that program and she could experience, wow, this is really working, then there was more zeal and more commitment to continue the program with the children. And of course, they're going to bring daddy in and mommy and grandma in and everybody else in, because that's how we are. We want our whole family to be well and healthy. We want our whole community to be well and healthy as mothers.
Well, that's great. So the children is the catalyst to bringing everybody together.
It was.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Very wise of you to be able to figure that out. So our intention is to be able to provide as much information as possible for perhaps that people don't know about what they could do naturally to help heal their bodies or to keep themselves in the highest quality of health. So with the classes and then focusing on all generations, the grandmother, you said, the parents and the children, that's really awesome. Are there any tidbits that you can give us here at this particular time that a person can just start incorporating, drinking more water?
Of course. So again, we believe in the body's ability to heal and repair itself, and we believe that what we have to supply the body with, we find in whole foods. And what do I mean by whole foods? I mean things that come out of the ground the way that they look. Okay, so if man didn't make it, basically that's a whole food. Okay, so in our office, that's sort of the things that we try to teach our parents about: how to feed your children, how to feed your body, those kinds of things. So we start basically with that. We start with trying to get people to understand that they need to incorporate more whole foods and eliminate these processed and fast foods out of their diet. So for an example, I'll tell my parents, like, when you go into the grocery store, stay outside on the perimeter. That's where you're going to find those whole foods, because when I say whole foods, they think if they go buy a box of macaroni and cheese, what's the name of that stuff? I forgot when they advertised the mac and cheese thing. You put water in, right, and stir it up. That's whole food. That's food. But we know that that's not giving their body what it needs to heal and repair itself. So we say, like, did that macaroni and cheese come out the ground? Nope, I don't think so. And we look on the back of that box, there's probably things you can't even pronounce. So let's go around the outside of that grocery store and pick up on whole foods, pick up on tomatoes, greens, kale, spinach, and you want to try to get as many organic things as you can. But, we take baby steps. We try to get people to institute things so that things can be sustainable. So we start by looking at, where we should be shopping, how we can get the most for our money, staying on the outside of that perimeter, and then looking at other things. Okay, what kind of water are you drinking? If you can get any kind of filter for your water, that's going to be a plus. You don't have to go out and spend $10,000 for an expensive filtration system, but you do want to do some kind of filtration system. And then when you start seeing how much your health improves, like, hey, this year she didn't get that many, she wasn't out of school that much. She didn't get many colds, and that's going to be more incentive for you to sort of upgrade that filtration system and to do more with your food, than you were doing before.
I find it fascinating that a lot of children, especially the younger, they're not as familiar with food coming out of the ground.
Absolutely.
I don't know where they think it comes from, but not out of the ground.
Listen, and I'm not immune to that. I have 30 acres in Walton County. It has an apple orchard, pecan trees on it, and we're starting to do some organic gardening. And we had a baby shower, like a big baby shower, and I was like, let's get some apples for the baby shower. And my child, who's an A++ college graduate, walked past 12 apple trees and went down to Kroger's and bought some apples. I was like, what? I was like, oh, I want my money back. I want my money back from school. I want my money back. And I said, why did you walk past this organic? Why did you walk past the apples, baby? That's what I was talking about when I told you I'd go get me some apples. She said, oh, I didn't know those were the same kind of apples. I was like, wow. I mean, it's our fault. We have them in we're pushing them in school. We have them inside. Even kids don't go outside that much.
Yes, sure.
They don't go outside that much. They don't even have a concept of what's even outside.
Right.
So we have to sort of put them more in touch with the land. I encourage people you can get a flower pot and let your child grow a tomato, a pepper, anything, any herb. Let them grow some basil and then make some basil lemonade. Let them grow some oregano and put it in your spaghetti. Let your child grow something. Let them realize that food comes from the earth. This food is outside. Those kinds of things we kind of encourage and have little seminars and little things about that. But that is very important.
That's great. I like that idea because some parents may not even be attuned to, like understanding how this whole process goes.
Yeah.
I remember with my grandchildren the first time I juiced, and it wasn't the clear that comes out the bottles in the store. They're like, oh, what is that? So yeah. Well, thank you for that, and I love that that suggestion, and that is a way of introducing that to our community. In your professional observation, what is the most important missing health ingredient facing us?
Eating whole foods. I just can't say it enough.
Okay.
I just can't say it enough. That's the key to that. We have poisoned ourselves generationally, and we continue to do it. If we realized what we were doing by taking our children to McDonald's and Burger King's 2 or 3 times a week, we wouldn't do it. I always give my children who come into my office and their parents another project to do. I ask them to buy a kid's Happy Meal. If you can't afford a Happy Meal, I'm glad they came out with that 2 for $1, 2 for $2 hamburgers. Buy that. Buy a 2 for $1 hamburger and let one sit. And go back and look at it in 30 days. It's going to still look the same. And hopefully you don't have roaches in your house, but guess what? You have roaches, they ain't going to take it. They ain't going to touch it. You won't see no roaches crawling on there, none of that. So if they don't want it, why we want it? I mean, I ain't mad at McDonald's. They make some money. I am mad at them, actually, because they could do better. But, we want kids to see that foods just sit there. You can't do that with organic grass-fed beef. The China study and stuff like that. There's Dr. Royal Lee. There's a lot of studies, Dr. Layla Africa. There's a lot of studies that have shown that these processed foods, the effect they have on us. And how they came about was when people came across environments that didn't have access to those foods, they noticed that, hey, these people are pretty healthy. They living to be 190 years old. And then you come to these industrialized nations and the lifespan continues to get shorter and shorter. So we're on a backwards trend in these industrialized nations because of these processed foods, where our lifespan is getting shorter as opposed to getting longer. Okay. So there is a lot of studies out there for people who want those kind of scientific studies just to see. But you can, it's amazing because we used to have children come from America over to Africa and spend some time with us. And they would come and they would be overweight and they would be sluggish and they'd have eczema and they have asthma. And, we didn't have access to these fast foods. In the environment we were in, you went grocery shopping every day because even if you were eating meat, you had to kill it every day. And you had to go to, people picked food from the garden every day and went to the market and sold it, and you went and brought it. And they just picked enough to sell for that day. They then went back and harvest some more and picked enough to sell for that day. There's not a lot of refrigeration. So the women get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and they go to the market every single day. So that was a diet of fresh, whole foods every single day. And the transformation in those children was remarkable. I had one situation when the little boy came over. He was at least, 50 pounds overweight, sluggish, brain fog, off the chart in terms of his ability to focus and his behavior, and the, kind of like that's why he was sent, because he was getting expelled from schools and things like that. His mom came to see him in 3 months' time. I took that child to the airport with me. She didn't recognize her own child. She rode back with him, and the trip was like 3 hours. We get out the car, and she says, "When I'm gonna see my son?" I said, "You have to be kidding me. He's been sitting with you for 3 hours."
Amazing.
The transformation in his spirit, in his behavior, and physically was so phenomenal to her. It didn't even click in.
Wow.
It didn't even click in. So there's definitely a lot of studies that show what these foods are doing to us, and even locally there's DVDs like Food Matters or Supersize It that show how these foods are affecting our health. So we have to get them out of our diet.
Do you think there's additional harm that they will do as well, with the genetically modified vegetables that is so prevalent in the market right now, because they're not required, those companies are not required to say what they've been attached to or mated with, right?
Yeah, it definitely is very alarming and frightening just to think about actually what's happening. Because when you think about something that's genetically modified, what that means is that they have actually taken certain genes from other species, whether it's from viruses, bacteria, animals like monkeys, and they splice it in, they mix it in with the seeds of these foods so that, quote unquote, they can grow faster, or they can avoid a fungus, or so in the end, so they can make more money faster. And so when you ingest that, it's almost like being a cannibal. You're eating the genes from these other species. So what do we think is going to happen? How do we think that's going to work out okay?
I don't know. I do know that the children are acting out more, and children to be in a brain fog is just really
something.
Yeah, that you would not expect for a young person to to keep up with where they are and what they're doing and be actively involved in that.
It's frightening. And there are studies down that show that these genetically modified foods are linked to particularly some childhood cancers, particularly the most common childhood cancer, which is a form of leukemia.
Right. We must be about the business of educating each other.
And you could just think about yourself when you were younger, and we were getting whole foods. My father had a garden. And even I can tell the difference between the taste of the tomatoes that came out of his garden to the tomatoes that even I buy whole, that's supposed to be whole food from the grocery store. It's not even the same. I don't remember tasting a tomato like I tasted when I was growing up, because we always got ours right out of the garden, and I would eat it almost like it was fruit, because it's flowering plant, so it really is a fruit, right? And I would eat it like that. I would cut it, and when I got older, I might put a little salt on it. But when we were little, we would be playing, and we run up there and grab one, and we sneaking something, just like kids sneak candy today. I remember actually sneaking tomatoes, and I would eat them like I was eating a peach or a pear. It was just that good, And I can't, even the ones that are grown, and because they're forced to be spraying them so they can ship them here. They coming from California, they're here. It's still not the same. So we have to actually really get back to taking back our food and growing our own food.
You brought up a good point with the food being transported from different states here. How important is it to eat locally grown?
Well, it just makes sense, right? It's really important, because for them to transport that food from Mexico or California, they're going to have to do something to preserve it. And preservatives is one of the leading causes of allergies in kids. Okay, and they spray it with strange kind of stuff. Like I tell you, I'm not proud of this. I was pulling up the Wendy's. I had my little Frosty moment there, and I'm sitting there, waiting to get this little dollar Frosty, right, that I hadn't been getting anyway. and a truck pulls up that has Wendy's lettuce. So I'm looking at the truck, and it's not a refrigerated truck. So how are you transporting lettuce from wherever they were coming from with no refrigeration? It's sprayed with the same chemical that you spray your dry cleaning clothes with. And so I get people all the time, like they tell me, I ain't been to fast food, I ain't been to Wendy's, and I test them for dry cleaning substances. I do like a nutrition response testing evaluation using muscle testing and using like digital imprints of things that are toxic to us, like dry cleaning fluids, and they test for it, and I'll say, you've been to Wendy's, and they'll be like, how you know? Or you've been to Subway. I said, because that's what they spray that stuff with so that it looks fresh, and then we eat it.
Wow. And we don't know.
We don't know.
You are revered as the people's physician because of your compassion for the well-being of the entire human tribe. Was there any one incident that serves as your main motivation?
Well, my main motivation was my mother. I mean, she was a licensed practical nurse, and at that time in our community, a licensed practical nurse was like equivalent to a doctor. Because you couldn't afford to go to the doctors, and that sometimes the racism kept you from going to the doctors, and so people would knock on our doors any time of the night, telling my mom what was going on, this emergency came up, or what they should do about this, and she never turned anybody away, and she never seemed upset about having to give of herself or be taken away from her family. She just gave. In fact, she'd always share to her one of her favorite verses was the verse in the Bible about charity. And she would always share to me, what she loved about Shakespeare was what he said about the quality of mercy not being strained, but just it drops like rain, blessing those who give and those who get. So she was my main inspiration. Yokobuk. Yokobuk is a Senegalese word that I learned because they don't have a word in the Senegalese language for you're welcome. So when you say thank you, they say Yokobuk. And Yokobuk means this is what we're supposed to do. This is our tradition. This is what we need to do. This is what we're supposed to do. So Yokobuk.
Oh, well, thank you for teaching us that too. So, Dr. Ascari, you have a world audience here with this project. Is there one particular area or advice, teaching moment that you can take and share that will help us, especially the communities that are targeted with the fast foods, the toxic air and water, that some action steps? You said to start growing the food in flower pots. That's a great idea, so that the children can learn where food really comes from. What other steps?
Well, I always get back to sort of the babies, and then the main thing is like I had a conversation that's interesting with a young man today, and I said to him, the main thing that we have to do is we have to walk wisely. And what I mean by that, we have to live our lives wisely. And if we're living our lives wisely, we use our time wisely. And I wanted him to look at time like a currency. So I said to him, we were talking about dressing and how you dress with your pants down. And I said, okay, let's say you had to pay $20 every time you got to get dressed. So would you pay $20 for what you have on today, this dirty t-shirt and these pants that hang along your butt? Or would you pay $20 for, a better t-shirt, pants that, kind of fit you? Which one would you really pay for if you had to pay $20 every time you got dressed? I said, just answer me that. And he said, well, I'll probably pick the one that had the better t-shirt. I said, okay. So that you put out, every time you give up your time even to dress, think of that as a currency. You should spend it wisely. Every time we eat, so I took it to him to eat. So when you spend time to eat, and you take the time to get in your car, drive to McDonald's, give them your money, is that wise time? Have you spent that time wisely? Because what you're getting in exchange, it's not good for you. So it's better to spend the time going to the grocery store and buying food that we can cook every day that's healthier, or growing that food. And we have to show that example to our children. And it starts with even just when the babies are born, breastfeeding. So they get a taste for what's natural for them. Because we don't really the things that we're putting in our bodies when we use these formulas, and sometimes that may be unavoidable for some reason, but most of the time most people can breastfeed or go to a breastfeeding bank or partner up with someone else who's nursing, so that we're not starting to introduce this concept of having to crave these sort of foreign foods in our body. A lot of times I would have patients come to me and say, this is a 2-year-old, oh, he don't eat nothing but chicken McNuggets. I'm like, really? He gets in the car and drives to McDonald's? That's amazing. What kind of kid you got, you know? And I shared it to them, telling them they're making that choice for that child. But what's happened is they fed that child so many fast food, or the mother was on so many fast foods, that the body has acclimated to trying to draw what it needs from these fast foods. So you have to kind of reset that switch so that the body now is asking and demanding for the things that it really needs to heal and repair itself.
So is that part of the obesity problem that we have?
Absolutely. Absolutely part of the obesity problem. These foods are augmented with growth hormones, they're augmented with other hormones, estrogen, and all kinds of things that sort of affect not only our hormonal and endocrine system, but our metabolism and our ability to stay healthy, have the energy and the motivation to be active and move around, and how we metabolize, you know, the foods we eat, our insulin receptors. Nobody has to eat meat every day. And, you know, we want to start getting to, sometimes I tell my parents, just pick one day a week that's just a vegetarian day for you. So if you're used to eating meat for breakfast, meat for lunch, meat for dinner, you know, that's sort of that person, they develop sort of that habit, because, you know, there's good marketing for those kind of things. And so we have to do some reverse marketing. So we'll say, okay, so I used to tell them, pick one day a week that's a vegetarian day. And then when they come back in like a month, I say, how did that go? So I was great, I got this recipe. I said, okay, Mom, that was your vegetarian day. Now I'm going to let your daughter pick a day that's a vegetarian day. So we get them to see that you don't have to eat meat every day, and you have more energy and you'll feel healthier, and get them on the concept of having these whole foods. And look, that allows us to control our food better too. You know, it's a lot harder to raise a cow, because tell me I've done it, than it is to plant tomatoes and corn and those kinds of things.
Greetings. This is Sandy with Life, Love, and Wellness Global, and today's guest is Mr. Timothy James Branch, who is a multifaceted individual serving people in the community and throughout the world with his tremendous amount of passion and knowledge and love for others. So I'm going to have Tim to introduce himself so that you get to know him as richly as I know him.
Hi, I'm Timothy. I'm multifaceted. I sound really big time, but that's my Sandy Rogers. I am just your typical guy next door. I have lived for a number of years on this earth, which I'm grateful for. So therefore, I've had a number of spiritual experiences that I have grown to understand and have been allowed and able to help others during that journey as well. So it has been a wonderful and excellent journey, searching, finding, and being exactly where I am right now as a man, as a human, as a godchild, as a gifted and chosen child. So I am grateful that Sandy has asked me to share some of those experiences with you.
Thank you.
The Spirit of the Lord has always been strong. So as a young man, I grew up in the church. I sang in the choir, served on the usher board, the whole 9 yards. So we were at Sunday school, we were at church every Sunday, and that became a part of my life because that was a fulfillment for me. And I always knew it was something larger. I remember as a young man, I watched the Ten Commandments with the rest of the family. So during Easter time, we all sat down and watched that movie. That movie stuck with me. And it was because God is present and he spoke. He was actually real by the desire of one man's heart, which was Moses, which was the only man that is known to have seen him. If Moses can do it, I said, why can't I? So that stuck with me all of my young life, and that's when I began to seek. I went to the library. I would find books on the different books in the Bible. I did a little bit of studying on Moses and the whole 9 yards. So I wanted to be that individual that had that one-on-one, that unique relationship with God. I know that we are all God's children, but I want to be that special son and that special child of his. So I started that journey of seeking him. So that's where the spirituality came in, because he knew that I was going to get to these points in my life, because evidently he put it in my heart. So my life is ruled totally by him. So at that particular time in my life, I always wanted more. I was hungry for more, because he began to reveal more to me. So when I would have the feelings, I would have the thoughts, I would hear the voices, I could feel the spirit around me. These are things that are unknown, and only those things unknown God can explain. That's how I've always felt, and I've always lived that way as well. So my prayer life became very strong, and my meditation life became very strong, because I found out being still and just being in a small sacred space, that he would hear me and I would hear him. So as an adult, I am still the same way. I still meditate and I still pray, and that is our communication as a unit. So as a young man, that's where it all began for me. I'm not a psychic, and I don't like being considered as a psychic, because mine is a God-given gift. So not to say that, something's wrong with psychics. I have no idea what their spiritual journey is and how whatever higher being, speak or communicate with them. But I know how God and the Holy Spirit speaks to me. So I have utilized that as a gift to share with others, around me as well. Everybody does not know that Spirit works with me and communicates with me that way, because it'll do the same thing with you and any other individual also if you tap in. And I've never untapped. So I'm always asking, I'm always searching, I'm always looking for ways to help others, and that is through the Holy Spirit.
That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Is that gift, or is that connection, is that communication, is it available to all people? And can, I'm going to say an average person, can they increase their spiritual connection with the Most High, with God, with the source of all life? Can they do it if they set the intention like you did?
Absolutely. It is a gift. And as I mentioned before, I was in search of, and I'm still in search of. So God is everything, everywhere. And the one thing that has always stuck with me, all things are possible through Christ. To seek his face, absolutely. He knows that you're seeking, and he will meet you halfway. So yes, I can do it. You can do it. My next door neighbor could do it. Anybody can do it. All you have to do is open up your heart and ask. And if you ask, he will make a way, and he will show you the way to get to him and to communicate.
And the benefits that you see evident in your life?
The benefit is know that God is a wonderful God and that he will supply everything you need, regardless of how small or regardless of how large. He is the creator of all, and he is my creator. That is the best benefit, because at that point in time, I feel like I'm a spoiled little child, because he said that I can have anything that I want, only if I ask. If I not seek, I will find that. And I have, out of all of these years. So benefit, absolutely. Being able to call his name every day and to make my requests known to him, that is a benefit.
You spoke about meditation. I know for me, it wasn't a word that I knew as a young person coming up. But how would you recommend that to a person to incorporate that? How important is it for them to incorporate that into their life?
You know, the world is so busy. The world is confusing. The world is congested. The best way to incorporate it is to just stand still. Sit and be still. Find you a space where you have total silence. Remove yourself out of the equation, which will take some time because your thoughts are going to overtake you. So until you get to the point, and doing it by practice, of just being still and clearing your mind and just focusing. Focus on, it's what they call the third eye, which is this point right in between your two eyes. And do that on a consistent and daily basis. You will get to the point where you will be able to sit in silence, and you will be able to hear your heart. You will be able to hear the Holy Spirit, and you will also be able to hear God speaking to you through that silence and that peace.
We live in such a noisy, pollution world where there's always sounds going on all the time. And so I can understand a person may have a resistance to sitting and being still, or that they're in a household where there's a lot of people. So how can that person find that peace, or that space to have peace?
What I have recommended others to do is, where do you go that puts a smile on your face? Now that could be outside, it could be under a tree, it can be by a poolside. Wherever you go that brings you peace and brings you solitude, that's where I advise people to go to. It doesn't have to be 4 walls and it's all sealed in. It can be any place that makes you happy, because that spot and that space is going to relax you. It's going to make you comfortable. So at that point, it'll be easier to focus. And once you get that focus, then you'll be able to hear and you'll be able to listen. So it doesn't have to be a small room. Some people do go into their closet because that is the only quiet place that they have. By all means, do so. Whatever means necessary to hear God, go there. I had a desire, and I had a desire to know Him. Growing up, I had a wonderful childhood. I think I had a wonderful childhood. It was nothing dramatic or traumatizing. For me, a good household, peaceful household. I've also learned as growing as a young man that there was always something more. So how do I find out what that something more is? So when I speak to those individuals that I counsel or I advise, I have to find out where they are in this world. Where do they want to be in this world? This was all a pivoting point for me, because where I thought I wanted to be, God had other plans for it. So through that journey and through seeking Him, He's going to show you the plan that He has for you, which is not always the best plan for yourself that you think it is, because your mind is going in a totally different direction. But eventually, He shows you of what it will be. Why would you not want to follow that? For other individuals who are having a hard time finding themselves, that would be the first thing. You must be real with who you are. You have to be truthful with who you are. Because plagiarizing and faking it, God is not a fake God. So to seek him is to know him. To seek yourself is to understand yourself. So to have the two of those relationships together, you really, I feel you can't go wrong, as I speak from experience myself. You have a lot of outside influences. You have a lot of bad spirits as well. So it's very important that you stay in tune, you stay connected with who you are, where you are, and make sure your environment also reflects that. Because you know how they say karma is something else? It is all spiritual. God spoke. Everything became spirit because when he spoke it, he put life into it. So my advice to those that I speak with and those that I counsel, please find you first. Let's find out where you are and where you want to be right now, because that's most important. Because without understanding that, it's going to be difficult for you to move forward and allow for any other goodness to introduce itself or themselves to you. Once you do that, then it'll be easy to connect with the spirit. It'll be easy to see what I see. It'll be easy to hear what I hear. It's a wonderful life. There's not one right way and there's no wrong way. God speaks to me in many ways, but the important thing is I know when he's speaking. I know when he's present. And I have to get each individual that I speak with and counsel to, because see, they want something definitive. They want to say, okay, so what does he do to whatever the circumstance may be? Sometimes I hear his voice. Sometimes I can feel his finger writing on my heart. So it is those types of communication that I know he speaks to me. So for me to say, okay, well, you can do the same thing, he may not want to speak to you that way. It may be a totally different way that he wants to speak to you. But the important thing is you're able to identify his voice. Like I said, there's a lot of other different spirits out here as well, and all spirits are not good spirits. So you really want to be careful of what you're inviting and who you are inviting into your space. But yes, everybody can do it the same way. That's how I started, by seeking him through my meditation, through my silence, and by knowing who I am. You seek God regardless of wherever you are in life. You seek him, that's where it all begins. But not seeking him, no, I personally don't believe that it will happen that way. So not to say that it can't, but that was my connection with God. It doesn't have to be an institution where you have to become more spiritual. Seek him, seek some higher being, and allow that to happen for you. So no, doesn't have to be a church.
Another beautiful, beautiful message, and I would like for you to expand a little bit more on the spirituality, because sometimes that's a new terminology for a lot of people, a new word for people, because they think that by practicing a religion that's spiritual. Is there a difference between religion and being spiritual or spirituality?
My thought on being religious and being spiritual are two separate entities. You can study and believe in a particular religion, but you don't necessarily have to be spiritual. It's just a matter of understanding. So religion is, I don't know how to put it, but I keep the two separated. Because if I don't go to church, I can still be spiritual. Like I said before, God has put everything, spirit is everything. Well, first of all, I wasn't always as a clean eater or did things by the book and the whole 9 yards. I used to drink. I used to smoke. I was never a big meat eater. I still had growing up as any child would. McDonald's and the whole 9 yards, and you eat all those unhealthy foods. But a point in life, I used to model, and I was eating on the run because I was holding a full-time job, plus I was modeling in Chicago and going back and forth. So there was no nutrition in between there. And I ended up getting sick from food poisoning. So that knocked me down, and that made me take a step back and really look at what I was doing to myself. The spiritual side of me knew in the back of my mind that, okay, this is getting old, I need to change it. But the demand of work and the demand of making the money and the money became overwhelming, that I forgot about the nutrition side of me. Now, prior to that time, of course, I was still eating all my vegetables because I'm a vegetable lover. I was still meditating during that time. So that part took me out of my comfort zone. And then once I really got sick, that's when I took that step back and said, hey, hold on. Things are not going the way that I'm used to them going. So things became a little bit cluttered. And I'm a very organized individual. So when I don't feel that, when I have a hard time hearing from spirit, when I have a hard time with the feelings and the aura and the atmosphere around me, I become concerned. Taking care of yourself is very important. Spending time with yourself, treating yourself. I like to bathe. I love the water, and I meditate a lot just in the bath alone. Whether it's walking outside, whether it's standing by a tree, whether it's putting my feet in the grass, whether it's sitting on the grass, it's just making that earthly and that spiritual connection all plays a part in the development of your depth of spirituality.
Love and wellness.
Reverend Sandy, I'm so honored to be here and thank you for all kind of reasons. Tasili Ma'at is the name that I go by. I was given that name in stages in my life, and so I have always been able to have something to identify with, to strive to live up to. A lot of times people say, well, a name is just a name, and there's no significance to it. And that's how we've been raised here in America. But in fact, that's a part of the forgetting. That's a part of the forgetting of who we are, where we came from, and what we came here to do. In other words, what is our life's purpose? Is it just to be born and then grow up to pay bills? No. We came here to do more than that. But if you never take the time to know who you are, then you won't be able to know where you came from, what you came here to do, much less where you're going. So I have just had an extraordinary life in so many wonderful ways, and yet my life is probably pretty regular to a lot of people. I was born in the South, in Houston, Texas, and my mom's side of the family were civil rights workers, freedom fighters. My dad's side of the family were entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs from the fact of being farmers, of being domestics, and then knowing how to save them. My grandmother and her sister on my father's side actually owned a block in Houston in what was called the West End district, which now is equivalent in value to Midtown. They sold a lot of property there. But back in the day, my grandmother and my grand aunts just built houses. They built about 4 or 5 houses, and they rented them out. And my grandmother had an 8th grade education. You know, she worked in some white folks' house, and they just happened to be some decent white folks, some decent colonizers, and they gave back. They actually paid for my father to go to medical school. So after he's had gotten his degree, spent time in the military, he knew he wanted to be a doctor. So he came out, scored very high on the MCAT, and was admitted to Meharry Medical School. And my mother's side, like I said, they were freedom fighters from way back. My first story of historical recollection of my mother's side of the family, they came from the story of my 7th generation grandmother, who, upon learning that the slaves were free, this is one of those Juneteenth stories, she packed up herself and her 4 sons that were by Massa Day. Yep. He had his black family, his white family. And she was preparing to leave, and he told her, you know, he didn't want her to go, and all of this, and she said, I'm not staying here. He said, well, you know. He tried to stop her, and she said, it'll be over my dead body. He picked up a 2x4 and hit her in the head, which killed her instantly, and he felt so bad about it, he left half of the plantation to those 4 sons. That later became the city of Dayton, Texas. You know, like most black families, my people sold the land, were tricked out of the land, got hit by high taxes, and so on and so forth. So now all that remains is a park that is dedicated to the family lineage there. But that freedom fighting spirit came through the lineage such that my grandfather participated in fact, was one of the organizers of the Black Postal Workers strike that took place in Houston back in the, it's in the 50s, I think, 50s or 60s. It had to be the 50s. And because he was one of the organizers, he was never promoted. He never got to benefit directly from what they were fighting for. But other African Americans did. And so he's seen, along with a couple other organizers, signing the agreement to change those laws with President Johnson, Lyndon Johnson. And also on that side of the family, my great-great-great-grandmother was full-blood Shawnee. So I have my lineage that is indigenous to this land is still very vibrant in my veins as well. And she met my great-great-great-grandfather while she was on the Trail of Tears. And, you know, many indigenous people were very, very dark, and so they were able to pass as being quote-unquote Negroes. But we know the indigenous people of this land were black already. You know, and so there was that confusion. And then also when the Asians migrated over from the Bering Strait, they mixed with the black people of the land here. And thus we get the typical image of the so-called Native American with the slanted eyes and the straight hair. But they're a mixture of the woolly head, dark-skinned indigenous people that were here first. So, and I would also have to acknowledge many of the Asian, who were also, they were Asiatic black people. I gotta speak on that too, because they were black coming from over. But you know, when you're in cold environments, the melanin starts to become latent or dormant. Anyway, that mixture was such that the lighter skinned indigenous people blended in with white folks. The darker skin blended in with the Negroes, and so many of them were able to escape going to the reservation. So she was one of them. She had 10 children, and she was a midwife, and she was an herbalist. So a lot of that, came through to me. Fast forwarding to my mom and my dad. My mom was a community activist. She did a lot in the San Diego area. She was a member of the Urban League and the Black and Brown Coalition, which was a group of, it was a gathering of the different activist groups, the Panthers, the US organization, the NAACP, was it Jewish, was some Jewish organization that was a part of it, the Chicano Federation. Anyway, they were all together as a coalition, and my mom would have meetings at our house. So I was a baby at the foot of all of that, sitting at the feet of people who sacrificed their lives so that we could have the blessings that we so very much take for granted now. I remember my mom having me and my little brother, she's pushing him in the stroller, but I was carrying a picket sign and boycotting lettuce and grapes with the Chicanos in that movement that was led by Cesar Chavez. I remember living next door to a family that were very much involved in the US organization led by Mama Karanga. So I met him as a child, and Kwanzaa was a very real thing for me. It wasn't something that we just did once a year. Being involved in community programs and things, it was kept alive. It's definitely kept alive for me. My dad, he wasn't a big activist like that, but he and the other black doctors who graduated from here, a group of them, moved to San Diego, and they started the first black-owned outpatient surgery center in the country. It was back in the 70s. And they were interviewed by Black Enterprise, and they were on the cover and all that. And it was a very powerful thing that they did because it was in the community. And my dad and I used to get into it because I was always reading. I was an avid reader. And I was reading books on, African liberation. I read books about our cosmology. At that time it was termed mythology. I was very much into political activism, of course. And so my father thought I was very militant. He and my mother used to get into it because he felt like she ruined me, so to speak. But we get into arguments about blackness and what our people should do. And he would say to me, all of that stuff you talking about, picking up a gun, all those kinds of things. He said, all that's going to do is get you killed. He said, and it's rhetoric. He said, the real black power is green power, having your finances in order, having the money to make a change tangibly for people. And at the time I didn't get it, because to be militant, to be a revolutionary, you had to wear fatigues, and you had to have, Miles' little black book. And, you had to be poor, because otherwise you'd be considered part of the petty bourgeois and a part of the problem. And so much of what my father was saying to me, this was a part of petty bourgeois rhetoric, because he and the other doctors provided a standard of living for us where we were very well-to-do. I wouldn't say we were wealthy. We were wealthy in terms of our sense of community, because we developed extended family. and most of the doctors' wives were community volunteers, activists on that level. The Huxtables, that was a reality for us, you know, because many of the doctors' wives, when they saw the Huxtables, decided to go to law school, literally. Went to law school. Many of them opened up their own practices, you know. So you had the fathers, the husbands who were the doctors, the wives who were lawyers or businesswomen. And some might say it was a privileged life. I would just say it was a blessed life because those parents then were very committed. You know, they had experienced segregation. They grew up in Jim Crow. So they knew what it was like to have the resources, but to be denied access just by the color of their skin. They saw and experienced what it was like to not be able to vote, to not be able to live in certain parts of town, to just be, in fact, my father was almost arrested for walking down the street with his sister, who looked white because she was so light complexion. Both her parents were black, but my father's grandfather was white. So, in any case, he was almost arrested. They had to prove that they were brother and sister. How crazy is that? You know what I'm saying? And so to live with the threat of lynching, I mean, just for walking down the street, looking, being perceived to look at white folks the quote unquote wrong way. That's a life that we know nothing about. We may look at the police the quote unquote wrong way, but they could be black or white. And we could experience being shot, lynched in jail, whatever, you know, the things that go on still. But being able to be a beneficiary of those sacrifices, those struggles, the persistence, the perseverance, the commitment, the discipline, laid a foundation for me to know that I had no choice and be sane, you know, but to fight for the liberation of our people. Now, I didn't know what it was going to look like because by the time I became of age to actually be involved in anything, all those movements had died down or were underground. Wasn't popular, wasn't cool. Everybody wanted to be super fly, you know? The afros became perms. Good times became cocaine, heroin. I was consciously aware enough to see the destruction, devastation of our people, of our community, with drugs, with white women, with the women's liberation movement. I'm not a feminist. I can say I'm a womanist, but never in our history before the feminist movement have black women been confused about the allegiance to our families. It was a upper middle class, white women's movement. In high school, I did a term paper on the feminist movement because it was just burgeoning at that point. And me being a natural woman, you know, there were certain aspects of it that seemed attractive. But as I did the history, the research, no, they literally piggybacked off of, you know, our human rights struggles. The feminist movement was about white women capitalizing off of black women suing white men for sexual harassment, which was all about race, because they weren't really harassing their own women like that. They did to some extent, but not like they did with us. So those cases happened to be women, and so the white women's suffrage movement, you know, just gained momentum riding off of that, as do all these other movements who want to try and identify with the human rights struggle that we have as people of color in this country and all over the world as a result of colonization and institutionalized racism. Now, am I angry about it? I do sometimes still feel a way, yes, because the reverberations are still alive and unfortunately well. Do I dwell there? No, because I've learned to channel my anger into healing salve, because energy is just energy. Love and hate, same energy. It's just two opposite ends of passion. So to master oneself, one must become a master of one's energy. So how do we deal with it? How do we transform it? How do we direct it? So rather than to be destructive, I chose to be constructive with my energy. I chose to forgive, but not forget, because the forgetting is what is lulling our people into the deepest level of sleep. And although many of our young people are running around talking about they woke, let's see in the next 5 years. Or was it just a fad? Did the alarm clock go off and you hit the snooze button? Let's see.
And wellness.
And so today we have a young person, Elizabeth Testamark, who has a wonderful, wonderful story. We wanted to make sure that our young people are included in this documentary because their life stories and their life experiences are important. So Elizabeth, would you like to tell the world who you are, please?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Elizabeth Testamark, and I'm a senior at Collinsville High School, which is in Lawrenceville, Georgia. But my story began when I was 5 years old. At that time, my sister, my brother, and I, we all lived in Miami, Florida with our mom and our dad, but our mom passed away when I was only 5 years old. She had a stroke, and she also had brain tumors. So after her death, that led my brother to go and live with my auntie, and my sister and I to go live with our grandma. And at that time, my sister and I soon came to find out that our grandma was really abusive. And out of everyone in the household, her anger, her frustration, her rage, her pain, everything seemed to be targeted towards me the most. So I would take that and take it to school with me at a really young age and try to find validation in guys at a really young age, or fight all the time, or have attitude all the time. But as you can tell, I'm not the same person. But in 2012, my grandma and I got into a really huge confrontation, which led us, my sister and I, to move all the way to Georgia, where we're filming the documentary. And now we live with our godmom, who's taking care of us, and she actually took in my brother, my sister, and all of us. And I'm actually graduating this year, and I'm going to the College of Worcester in Ohio. But going from home to home and just different schools, it's been hard, especially on a teenage girl, because you're confused, you don't have stability, you don't know what to do or how to do it, and you don't really want to ask for help because you're ashamed of what people would think, because you never had that opportunity for you. But I've just learned to trust the process through it all. The number one thing that helped me focus on my goals in life is I went to a church retreat in 2015, and that's where I dedicated my life to Christ. And ever since then, it hasn't been the easiest thing, because you're still a teen, you have different influences around you, but it's been the best thing because I have a sense of direction and where I'm going in life. And I can honestly say that I can happily say that I'm graduating, I'm moving on to the next level. And what I plan on doing once I graduate school is I'm planning on majoring in music therapy. And my main focus, one of the biggest challenges with the music therapy field concerning kids with autism, or the reason why I wanted to specialize with kids with autism, is because if you see an autistic kid, especially in high school, everyone tends to avoid them, and no one talks to them or don't try to seek to understand, but just come up with their own perception of who they think they are. And one reason why I decided to do music therapy is because in high school I used to run track. And before I went to track practice, I would sit in the front of the school and watch all the buses leave. And as the buses leave, the autistic kids will come out and they'll be the last ones on the bus. And I just found the joy in my heart, you know, to like be with them and work with them. And I also did a music therapy class one time, and it was the best thing ever because like we didn't use actual instruments. We used cups, plates, toys, and just to see the joy from the kids, and also to see how like them using their instruments, helping them to cope with their disabilities was like a really cool thing. And so on my journey to college, since this will be my first year starting in August, I'll be far from where I'm trying to go, but I know that like the community around me will be helpful and supportive. And I can also say that I have a gift in music, so I sing in my church and I also sing just for fun. And I just know that the ability to use my voice, it will influence and encourage others to do, you know, like be the best that they can be and just be who they're called to be.
So how has the abusive situation with your grandmother, how did it impact your life in the beginning? Did it leave you like feeling confused as to why she was being mean to you, or?
Okay, so it's really crazy how I remember it, but I remember the beginning of everything. So for a while, because she used to travel back and forth from New York because she had work there, and she left me, I don't know where my sister was, but she left me at my great grandma's house. And since my family's from Haiti, sometimes my great grandma bring people in, you know, to visit like families and stuff, and like take the families in and help them to get their feet like in America and like learn, and then they move out and they do the same with other people from Haiti, which is really cool. And it's crazy because one day, I'm 5 years old, I don't really know better, but I took a shower that day, but I forgot to put on underwear because I didn't have any clean ones, and it just started from there. Like she was just calling me like all these names and stuff just because I didn't wear underwear, and I was like 5, so I didn't really know. So ever since that day it started. And how did it affect me? It made me not want to be anything that she would project on me. So the abusive names that she was calling me made me not be them. But what I've learned is when you try not to be something, and if you don't try not to be it in the correct way, you're going to end up being that way anyway, you know what I mean? So like if she would say like you suck at school, whatever, I will begin to suck at school, but that's because of her words are hitting me and it's subconsciously getting into me. So what you start to think, that's what you start to act like. So I guess like a way that I overcame that was blocking out the negativity and just following like the truth that God has already set before me, you know what I mean? Because people are going to drag you down and people are going to bring you down, but it's all about who you are created to be. We weren't created to be people who suck at school. We weren't created to be like, I don't know, people who destroy things, but God has blessed us with the gift of life, you know, to create things in a beautiful way. And I guess like there's different fields of music therapy. So you can also work with kids who have autism, but also kids who have depression, or kids who have like different disabilities, you know what I mean? Like if they're physically hurt. So I guess like one reason why I gravitated towards music therapy the most is because I just want to help the hurt, like help them find. I can't give them the healing that they need, but I can direct them to a path where they can find healing. So that's one of the reasons why I do want to be a music therapist, is to help. And I can honestly say that my personality is, I'm an encourager and I'm a helper, and if I see someone sitting alone at lunch, I'm going to take the initiative to sit next to them just so they wouldn't feel alone, like just so they wouldn't feel what I felt when I was young. And I'm still young, which is like the craziest thing about it, because even though I'm young, I'm wise in a way, you know? So yeah.
You sound like a very wise person.
Thank you.
And so, did you experience depression when you were with your grandma? Did you know that what you felt was like not normal, or?
Okay, so when I was living with her, I didn't really know what depression was. We didn't learn about it in school or anything like that, but I know that I was angry. But at the time, you don't think, oh, I'm angry. You just act, and you don't really know Because sometimes if you go to a therapist, they can just imagine or just tell you, hey, you're angry, you're acting out because of this. But in the moment, you don't think, oh, I'm fighting all the time because I'm getting abused at home. Like, that's not what your initial reaction is. I just always thought that's how I am. That's how I grew up. This is because since I lived in Miami, Florida, kids were fighting all the time. Like, it was normal. Like, people were shooting after school. It was normal for me. So I just thought, like, this is my community. This is who I am. But I didn't know I'm depressed, or I didn't know I'm angry. I didn't know I'm trying to find an outlet for what's happening at home. I didn't know that's what it was. So the only time I realized it is when I was taken out of that situation. And I think back, oh wow, so I did all of this because it was a subconscious reaction to what was happening in the house.
And how old are you now, Elizabeth?
I'm 18.
18, okay. Your life is just, it's been a good struggle, right?
Yeah, it's been a good struggle.
Great.
Yeah, okay, so from the death of my mom, I've always been told, and I actually noticed that I've been trying to fill the void that hasn't been there, especially at a young age, you know. When you don't have your mom, okay, I have friends whose moms passed away like at this age, at 18, at 15, at 16, but for me it was 5, and it didn't seem like a difference to me because I just never grew up with her. Like, I never grew up with her, so it never seemed as if it was normal. And so when I was growing up and I moved in Georgia and I was trying to find validation in people, I would just see like a mom figure in me, but not a good one, just like me being bossy or me trying to control things. But that was just me feeling the void of not having her, like not having that structural house. Because our dad, our family didn't like him for some reason. I still don't know why to this day, but we didn't have a dad figure in our house either. So we had like the ultimate broken household. But if you think about it, there's always a story that's worse than yours. So I'm just blessed that I had the opportunity to live with my godmom and her take us in as her own kids. But at the same time, as you continue to like live on, you get to realize why things happen the way that they did. You know what I mean? And I know like sometimes people say, oh yeah, if it was meant to be, it was meant to be. And that's not the worst advice. That's the worst advice you can ever tell someone, because when they're going through hurt, you don't want to say, oh, it was meant to be. Or if someone's parents die, yeah, it was meant to be. Like, that's not the best advice you can give them. So for people who continue to persevere forward, you know, and use your past to push you forward. You know what I mean?
That's good. And so where do you fall in the line? Are you the youngest, the oldest, in between, or?
So I'm the middle child.
Middle, okay.
Out of everyone in the house, but it's weird because when we were with our mom and our dad, I was the middle child. But when we moved with our grandma, she also had kids of her own. So my sister was the youngest, obviously, and I was the next youngest. But when we moved in with our godmom, my brother was the oldest, but he moved out, like, he came later on, so he moved out right away, and then I began to take on the role of the oldest, and my sister became the middle child. So, like, all throughout life, it's been, like, constant changes, and I guess, like, what I'm learning right now is how to cope with change. Like, I remember 2 weeks ago in service, like, at my church service, in the youth service, they were praying, you know, singing, worshiping and stuff, and coming out of me was just kept saying, I'm afraid, and I wasn't doing it on purpose. It was just coming out, and like, I guess like I've been asking God to reveal to me something that's on my heart that I need to fix, and I guess it's my fear of like changing and moving. Because concerning college, my initial reaction was to stay here in Georgia and go to Agnes Scott in Decatur, and that was my initial reaction, just to stay in Georgia, because I was tired of moving. But I guess God had a different plan for me, and I ended up going to college in Ohio. And it's a weird story how I got the scholarship. So the scholarship that I got was something called Posse, and basically what it is that they don't randomly select, but it's random kids coming together, and it's in a process of 3 interviews. Your first interview is a group interview where there's hundreds of kids in a room, and they sit down, you do different activities, and they look at you based on your leadership skills. The second interview is called DAP 2. It's where there's a 2-on-1 interview where there's 2 people interviewing you and there's just you answering the questions. And the third interview is 20 people in a room, and it's kind of like DAP 1, but it's more like confined and more like a higher bar. And out of the 20 people, only 10 people get picked to go to that certain college. So it's out of 1,600 people to 10 people for that specific college. You know what I mean? And that's crazy. And so I passed DAP 1 and I went to DAP 2. And I thought I passed DAP 2, but I got an email. And this is ironic because it was on a Friday night that I was going to one of my church retreats. So I got an email and it was saying, I'm sorry to inform you that you didn't get the scholarship. And at first I was happy because I was like, yes, I'm staying in Georgia, I didn't get the scholarship. But then when I was thinking about it, I was like, how am I going to pay for college? Like, I'm happy, yes, but they're covering tuition for 4 years. And that's a big difference. And all I have to pay is $11,000. And you can apply for scholarships, but let's say you had to pay $48,000. That's a big difference from $11,000. But I was still happy that I didn't get it. I'm like, yes, I'm staying in Georgia, I'm going to be with my friends, like, no more changes. And at my church retreat, I know people were praying for each other, and then one of my leaders, her name is Emily Crawford, she's the best. She asked me, she said, so what is something that's been on your mind? What are you struggling with? I was like, college, like, just knowing where God wants me to go. She prayed for me. Cool, she prayed for me. And so later on that week, I want to say it was a Tuesday, so the Tuesday we got back, I got a call in my psychology class. I didn't answer because I was in class, and my godmom texted me, she said, did you get that email? And so I called them back, and then they were saying, hey, is this Elizabeth Testemark? I was like, yeah, this is me. And I was like, congratulations, you got the scholarship. I was like, what? In my mind, I was like, I got the scholarship? What? Like, you got promoted to the next round. And then, I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but if you didn't get something at first, and then you pray for it, and then you got it, you're bound to get it, you know? And so, I finally went to the 3rd round of interviews, and I wasn't nervous, but I kind of was nervous because, like, when you tend to compare yourself to others, you pick out everything that's bad about you, and you're like, dang, she got a 4.0, but I got a 3.7, which is not that off, but still. And so I was comparing myself to everyone, and I was like, I'm not gonna get it. And then my godmom was like, well, you've come this far. Look at what just happened on Tuesday. And the interview was the next day, so, like, you're bound to get it. And so we did the interview, I was nervous, everyone was actually pretty good, and they called me that same night and they said, you got the scholarship. And I was like, what? OMG, like, just to have that relief off of your shoulders, because, like, coming from a family that the majority of my family didn't go to college, and I can honestly say, from my knowledge, my brother, my cousin, and another cousin all went to college. So that's 3 of us out of everyone else, except for my godmom. I'm talking about my generation. So 3 people from my generation, and there's like a lot of us in my generation that went to college. And I'm just like, dang, I'm gonna be the 4th, and my sister's gonna be the 6th, and our cousins, like, I don't know. Just like they were talking about earlier, generational curses that you're breaking. Like, since our family's from Haiti, and we didn't really have anything, our oldest people are pushing us to do everything that they didn't do. And so we had a director's chat with well, let me explain. So the posse, basically we meet up every Wednesday in Atlanta, and they basically give us life lessons. And since we don't know anyone we're going to college with, it's also a thing to build relationships, to know who we're going to college with. And so we had a director's chat in last Wednesday, and we had a guest speaker, and he was saying, look around the room. We looked around the room, and it was so diverse: African American, Caucasians, Hispanics, Asian, every ethnicity you can think of in that room. And he was saying, if you think about it, your grandparents has fought for this, like, fought for the diversity in the room. And it was really cool. And they were saying, you're here because they prayed for you to be here. You're here because they marched for you to be here. And I'm just like, dang, like, sometimes we have opportunities in life and we don't even think how deep they are. We just go about it in life and we're just like, yeah, no, I got this opportunity, cool, I'm blessed. But at the same time, you don't think about, like, who put in the work for you to have this opportunity, like, who fought, or, like, who worked hard, like, hard, long nights in their jobs being a maid, or just cleaning people's houses, or washing cars, or babysitting and stuff, just so you can be here and have this opportunity and have it easy. Yeah.
That's so cool that you would think like that.
Yeah.
So, what message do you have for children that, or young people, excuse me, for young people that are going through some type of household drama, you know, like it's either abusive, like what you experienced, or there's just some fussing going on, or their parents don't take up any time with them?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I can say is check yourself. Not in a bad way, but I would say check yourself is because when there's an issue, there's always two sides to an issue, and you have to seek to understand. Because I know my life isn't all that good now. We still have issues in the household, like every other household does. You know, parents and kids always argue all the time, and a parent can be right. That's why they're parents. That's why they're older than us. They have experiences, but at the same time, you don't understand what your parent is going through, why they project those feelings onto you. So I would just say, look at what you're doing wrong and try your best to humble yourself. Even though you're in a worse situation ever and it feels like you're getting hurt, like abused or just yelled at for no reason, your parents are going through things, and sometimes like they're still kids too. They don't know how to handle what they're going through. So just humble yourself and just be the best you can be in that situation. So like what I would have done differently if I was with my grandma and she was abusing me and all that stuff, I would have tried my best to avoid the abuse. And sometimes you can avoid it, but it will still happen, you know, to you and stuff. But if you're in an abusive situation, I would say get help, but get help from someone you trust, not from someone that you don't really know that well. So get help from someone that you can trust and that you know that will actually benefit you and help you in a good way. You know what I mean? So I would say check yourself and humble yourself in the situation. And what I mean by that is like, if I give you a scenario, if there's a daughter and a mom in a house and they're constantly arguing and the daughter knows she's right, and let's say she is right, but the mom is persistent just because she's a mom, you know, moms are moms. I would say go to yourself, go to God and be like, God, look, I know I'm right, and not to be boastful or anything, but like I know I'm right about this situation, but show me how you're viewing this situation and help me to view it the way that you are, so I can step back and humble myself and try to make the situation a little bit better for everyone else in the household. So that's advice that I would give.
Great answer. So how has it been as a life experience to have been brought up without your birth mother, or to only have had her for 5 years of your life?
So
do you remember her?
Yeah, I don't remember her.
Okay.
But okay, this is a couple stories that I do remember. So I remember when she had her stroke, we were all at our grandma's, my great grandma's house actually, and she was feeding me. And after she was done, or before she was done feeding me, she told me, your birthday? She told me my birthday, she told me my middle name. She said, your birthday is December 11, 1999. Don't forget. And I guess that's going to mean something special one day. She said, your middle name is Janelle, which means, oh, Jehovah has been gracious. That's what my middle name means. Jehovah has been gracious. And so I don't know what significance those hold in my life, but yeah. And so after that, she got up and she immediately fell from, you know, a stroke and her weak legs and stuff. And I didn't think about it when I was 5. I'm just 5. I'm just like, oh, mommy, you know, she's hurt. Like, I didn't think anything. But they made all the kids go in the room. They called the ambulance. She left. And then I just remember later on that year, or a couple of days later, actually, we all went on a family reunion and she didn't come. And I don't know, it was just sad to me to not have my mom, but at the same time, I'm a kid, my mind wasn't really on it. I was just thinking about having fun, going to the pool, going to South Carolina, and all this stuff. But I remember at her funeral, I was crying because I'm 5 years old. That's when you start to understand the world. And I just saw her in the casket and I was crying, and one of my uncles said, what are you crying for? I said, I don't know. And I just stopped crying because as a child, you're just afraid, you know, like you don't want anyone to, I don't know, you're just afraid. And so I guess like from that day on, me saying I don't know what I'm crying for, that actually built like a strong personality within me, because I was taught at a really young age not to cry for things, especially death, you know. I still cry, but I just know how to handle it better than most kids my age. Yeah, so that's something that I learned from that, and that's how it affected me.
Okay. So as we close up, is there anything special, a special message that you would like to leave either the parents or the guardians over children or young people in general?
Yeah. So for the parents and the guardians, I know when I was little, I used to always try to remember how I thought. So when I get older, I can try to understand how the little kids think, so I wouldn't be as aggressive towards them because they have a different mindset. You know, we have a different mindset than people who are 50, and people who are 7 have a different mindset than people who are 18. So I was just trying to say seek to understand from both perspectives. So if you're 18, seek to understand your parents, and parents seek to understand your children because they aren't thinking the same way that you are. And if you seek to understand rather to be understood, then you will approach the situation differently, in a different way.
Well, thank you, Miss Elizabeth Testamark. You are so blessed, and we wish you all the joys and prosperity and abundance that the universe has in your future going forward in college, and all your dreams, may they come true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And wellness.
Sure. So, hello everyone. It is indeed my pleasure as well to have the honor to grace my Aunt Sandy and her webinar series that she's doing. And I have a couple of different areas of expertise as far as healing is concerned. One is Tantra energy healing, which is a very fascinating modality that I've been able to experience extensive transformation and healing, and also been able to facilitate that in others. So it's really a pleasure and honor to always get a chance to share that with anyone and see if it resonates with them. Also, I'm a semi-trance channel and psychic intuitive, and so in my healing practice, I combine both of those abilities to really download information directly from spirit, and also interact or interface with the energy field of the particular person I'm working with, and using those two tools, kind of approaching the healing from both angles to get a really good, a maximum result. So
Great. And so what Arletta has done for our immediate family, several years, I'm not sure exactly how many, but Arletta was in her early 20s and was diagnosed with a thyroid condition where the allopathic doctors wanted to cut it out. Mm-hmm. And Arletta told her parents that she did not want to go through that. And so that led our family on a road going toward naturopathic remedies and medicines and modalities in order to heal. And I don't know if you've ever really considered that, Arletta.
I've never thought about it. That's the first time I've heard it. I heard that.
I'm very thankful for it.
Okay.
But you know, because your grandmother, my mother, was very much into the herbs, and you know, and telling people don't take the medicines, don't take the medicines. But you actually stepped out in faith.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you know, you can't cut on my body. Can you go back perhaps and visit that time frame of your life?
Sure. Oh, so much. So, yes, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, hyperactive thyroid disease. What was that? Back in 1995, actually. I was like a junior in college. And I had a very extreme, severe case of it. I'm sure brought on by stress. I was going through tremendous amounts of stress at the time, emotional. I was in school pursuing a double major in physics and math, and it was just craziness. And the condition was so severe once I started getting treated for it that the only options I was really offered was to do the radioactive iodine treatment. And if that didn't help, to cut out the portion of the thyroid that wasn't functioning normally or healthily. And there were many times when I was so sick I couldn't think, but there was always this very loud, insistent voice, no, you need to heal from this. You need to heal from this naturally. You want to have your thyroid along with all your other organs healthy and functioning. And that was actually like almost a 3-year process. And I went through a variety of modalities. I'm not even sure I was conscious of the faith. I just knew that no matter what, I needed to heal, not just get treated. And interestingly enough, I was able and was blessed with the support of my parents, especially my mom. She stood there behind me and was there with me step by step, really supporting me in that process and doing everything that she could. So I tried a variety of modalities. I started with iridology. I was treated by someone who did kinesiology with like the muscle testing. So what is it called? I can't think of the right term. But anyway, she was a kinesiologist. So that process is where you actually use muscle testing and your body actually gives you biofeedback as far as what's causing the particular illness, what particular types of herbs and other medications or treatments that will actually help you, and your body will actually tell you that. And so she was the one who actually put me in touch with a holistic chiropractor who had had success with her sister treating Hashimoto's. So a lot of people have thyroid diseases, and it's unfortunate because autoimmunity now affects about 70% of our population. And so the majority of people, or you're one of those people who has lupus or pre-diabetic or Crohn's disease or leaky gut, something's going on due to the toxins in our environment. So she referred me to this holistic chiropractor, and that was 2 years into my journey. 2 years of literally not being able to function at all. And that was the final piece of the puzzle. And literally within a month of me getting treated and adjustments by him and some of the other treatments he did, I started seeing significant, rapid improvement. And over a course of about 2 months, I was healthy and functioning. And then I was able to go back to school and finish and continue with my life. And I'm forever grateful for that experience. But that time is almost like Spirit was like, you know what, you're headed down the wrong path. Because my path at that time was pursuing theoretical astrophysics and being a scientist as far as my career and my life path. And I had almost 3 years to sit there and reevaluate everything and kind of get aligned with my spirit. And by the time I returned back to school, I was older, a little bit more mature, and had a clear idea of who I was and what I was supposed to do. And so I always say that illness is a gift. We just have to search and find and take out the time to find the gem and what it's telling us about ourselves, about our life, what's going on with us spiritually, and also what's going on with us physically. So
interesting. So through your process, you finished your education.
Yes.
But then it took you into a place of natural healing.
Yes.
And so
yeah,
you learned various modalities.
Yes, that's another
right,
aspect of the journey. So I found out this recently, actually literally about a month ago. I was meeting with a practitioner, and when I told him my story of putting Graves' disease into remission, he was like, that's phenomenal. He said, because that never happens. And I was like, really? Because it was just part of my, he was like, because it's, for some reason, how it affects your body is more difficult than like Hashimoto's, which is a hypoactive thyroid disease. So what I found is my body has triggers. So I actually had a trigger reoccurrence of a thyroid condition, which was Hashimoto's, which is the other opposite end of the spectrum. And that happened around the time that I separated from my then husband. But what was interesting about that time was not only did it bring on the onset of this illness, which just slowed my whole life down, but and me trying to deal with the emotional distress and pain and trauma of ending a relationship, that's when I first started. I got my first reading from a lady who actually went into complete trance and channeled the reading, and that kind of opened me up and led me on that part of my healing journey. But one of the things that she told me was, she was like, Arletta, she was like, you've always had this healing energy present in your body, and this healing energy vibrates at a different frequency than your body's normal energetic frequency. And so she was like, as long as you express this energy, whether it's through your poetry, whether it's through your healing work, through your writing, whatever it is, you will maintain that balance. But as soon as you stop doing that, your body's going to get back into imbalance and you would get sick. And so she was like, you know, through my process with a chiropractor, and even what I was going through at that time with the Hashimoto's, I was unknowingly healing myself. So it's kind of like a lot of this was very spiritual and not conscious. But that second time was when I started really tapping into my other metaphysical gifts and abilities, which I was not aware of at all. There was nothing in my awareness to even cause me to open myself up to this whole other realm of experience. And so that was, it's almost like my bouts with thyroid conditions kind of corresponded to these other major shifts in my life as far as direction. So
now I can see where you say your dis-ease or your challenges, your opportunities.
Yes, there were definitely
were gifts to you.
Absolutely,
right,
absolutely.
Right.
So, yeah.
So the modalities that you now practice more regularly
Right.
than perhaps the other ones that you've learned. So you want to go into a little bit more detail about the reasons why, or even some of the other ones that you've used that you
sure.
don't. Okay.
Oh my goodness. So fortunately, for me, my ultimate goal is to live in a constant state of expansion and be the most honest and authentic version of myself. So I'm constantly engaged in these opportunities to strip away the stuff and get to more and more who I originally am and why I'm here, so I can focus on that. So I have done some of everything. So let's see, I've done EFT and tapping. There's a variation of that called Psyche. I've used the Sedona method. I've used the HoloSync technology. There's probably a lot of stuff in between that. I have done so many different modalities, which have all helped and contributed at that particular time that I interfaced with those to just get rid of my stuff. So most recently, it's been almost 4 years now, I was dating this guy at the time, and he had this book. He's like, Arletta, you have to read this. I'm all about learning and being exposed to different things. And so this book was called Awakening the Master Feminine. And I read this book, and I will never forget, this was probably the second year of the Talia Wadget natural hair shows. And so I was headed to the natural hair show, and I started reading this book, and I could not put it down. I missed the hair show that spring, and I read for 2 days. And this book kind of opened up this whole new realm of explanation as far as what is the experience of being a woman, of being female, and the way the author, Yael Morris, described it just made me see myself clearer, my strengths, my weaknesses, and the whys behind that. And I was like, oh, this is good stuff. And so I had reached out to him, connected with him on Facebook, and lo and behold, a friend of mine about 6 months later invited me to an event at her house. And he was there, he was offering his first Tantra healing class here in the Atlanta area. And so I've been practicing this modality for almost 4 years now, and I would say the different things I've interacted and interfaced with, this is the thing I've seen that cuts the quickest to healing you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So accessing your Kundalini energy, getting that flowing in the person that you're helping facilitating their healing, causes all kinds of miracles to happen. And I've witnessed so many amazing things in myself and others that that's where I am at right now as far as my primary focus with my healing.
Okay, so for those of us that may not,
Yes.
right? I'm gonna
Yes,
put myself in there.
absolutely.
That may not know or have ever heard the word Kundalini
Ah, good.
and or Tantra.
Yes.
Would you just kind of
Sure,
break those
sure.
down for us?
Okay, so in a lot of the, okay, well, let me start with this place. All indigenous cultures have a Tantra system, all of them. And what Tantra is concerned with primarily is all humans contain Kundalini energy. It's a very high frequency energy that's part of our birthright as being human. And what it does is it sits right there, like at the base of our spine, like right there above our root chakra. And it's dormant in most of us. So sometimes in your life you may have an opportunity for it to be released, but in most cases, no. Most of our lives, experiences result in that being dormant. It's just staying dormant. So what my focus is with the Tantra healing is to focus on the chakras. And chakras are different energy centers in your body. Your body has 7 main chakras that correspond with organs and body functions and emotional and spiritual things as well. So you have your root chakra, your navel chakra, your solar plexus chakra, your heart chakra, your throat chakra, your third eye chakra, and your crown chakra, and those go by different names. So what I'm doing with the Tantra healing work is I'm focusing on removing those blockages from those energy centers, from those chakras, so the Kundalini energy can start to flow. The goal is to get that to start to flow, and when that starts to flow, it starts from your root chakra and starts to go up. That's where the healing takes place. And what's cool about Tantra energy healing is it heals on all the different layers of your auric field. And your auric field is, you have at least 5 different layers of your auric field, and those correspond with your experience here on earth as a human, and also your experience as a spiritual being and your experience as a cosmic being. And the healing occurs on all of those levels. So I hope that explains it a little bit.
Well, it does.
Okay.
And I appreciate the fact that you are a younger individual that can bring this. And so when we talk about age,
Okay.
has it been difficult, easy?
To live in a constant state of expansion and be the most honest and authentic version of myself. So I'm constantly engaged in these opportunities to strip away the stuff and get to more and more of who I originally am and why I'm here, so I can focus on that. So I have done some of everything. So let's see, I've done EFT and tapping. There's a variation of that called Psyche. I've used the Sedona method. I've used the HoloSync technology. There's probably a lot of stuff in between that. I have done so many different modalities, which have all helped and contributed at that particular time that I interfaced with those to just get rid of my stuff. So most recently, it's been almost 4 years now, I was dating this guy at the time, and he had this book. He's like, Arletta, you have to read this. I'm all about learning and being exposed to different things. And so this book was called Awakening the Master Feminine. And I read this book, and I will never forget, this was probably the second year of the Talia Wadjet natural hair shows. And so I was headed to the natural hair show, and I started reading this book, and I could not put it down. I missed the hair show that spring, and I read for 2 days. And this book kind of opened up this whole new realm of explanation as far as what is the experience of being a woman, of being female, and the way the author, Yael Morris, described it just made me see myself clearer, my strengths, my weaknesses, and the whys behind that. And I was like, oh, this is good stuff. And so I had reached out to him, connected with him on Facebook, and lo and behold, a friend of mine about 6 months later invited me to an event at her house. And he was there, he was offering his first Tantra healing class here in the Atlanta area. And so I've been practicing this modality for almost 4 years now, and I would say the different things I've interacted and interfaced with, this is the thing I've seen that cuts the quickest to healing you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So accessing your Kundalini energy, getting that flowing in the person that you're helping facilitating their healing causes all kinds of miracles to happen. And I've witnessed so many amazing things in myself and others that that's where I am at right now as far as my primary focus with my healing.
Okay, so for those of us that may not,
Yes.
right, I'm gonna put myself in there.
Absolutely.
That may not know or have ever heard the word Kundalini
Goodness.
and or Tantra.
Yes.
Would you just kind of
Sure,
break those
sure.
down for us?
Okay, so in a lot of well, let me start with this place. All indigenous cultures have a Tantra system. All of them. And what Tantra is concerned with primarily is all humans contain Kundalini energy. It's a very high frequency energy that's part of our birthright as being human. And what it does is it sits right there, like at the base of our spine, like right there above our root chakra. And it's dormant in most of us. So sometimes in your life you may have an opportunity for it to be released, but in most cases, no. Most of our lives, experiences result in that being dormant. It's just staying dormant. So what my focus is with the Tantra healing is to focus on the chakras. And chakras are different energy centers in your body. Your body has 7 main chakras that correspond with organs and body functions and emotional and spiritual things as well. So you have your root chakra, your navel chakra, your solar plexus chakra, your heart chakra, your throat chakra, your third eye chakra, and your crown chakra. And those go by different names. So what I'm doing with the Tantra healing work is I'm focusing on removing those blockages from those energy centers, from those chakras, so the Kundalini energy can start to flow. The goal is to get that to start to flow. And when that starts to flow, it starts from your root chakra and starts to go up. That's where the healing takes place. And what's cool about Tantra energy healing is it heals on all the different layers of your auric field. And your auric field is, you have at least 5 different layers of your auric field, and those correspond with your experience here on earth as a human, and also your experience as a spiritual being and your experience as a cosmic being. And the healing occurs on all of those levels. So I hope that explains it a little bit.
Well, it does.
Okay.
And I appreciate the fact that you are a younger individual that can bring this. And so when we talk about age,
Okay.
has it been difficult, easy, neutral with you as a young person to experience and to explore these different healing modalities, and then to also be able to have conversations with your peers about it?
Okay, so this is interesting. So like I was saying, I started on my journey of connecting with my other metaphysical abilities. What was that, back in like 04, 05. And at that time, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I didn't encounter anyone of my hue who was really into, being a psychic and connecting with spirit and being a medium and getting information from all these different receiving information from spirit in all these different ways. But really interestingly enough, I would say by like 2012, especially when I moved to Atlanta, and I always would call the city home because this is where I found my tribe, I started encountering groups of people of my hue who this was not a weird conversation. And they were open to it. They had their different practices. They were opening up to their gifts. And I was like, oh my God. So now, fast forward, say for instance, last year, 2017, I have a sister who also does this healing work and is also a psychic and a semi-trance channel. That's her primary business. And people from all walks of life, all types of religious backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, all types of experiences are gravitating and are open to getting readings. And so I would say that there's definitely an energy shift. All of us who are participating in this with Sandy, are actively involved in, but everyone is being affected by it. And so the layers of distrust and suspicion are being automatically removed. And so now that's a conversation I could have with anyone about Tantra energy healing, and people are receptive to it. And that's such an amazing thing to experience, because I didn't think I would witness that in my lifetime, and I'm still pretty young. So yes, how we're programmed. And so we are programmed, especially in this particular culture here in the United States, where everything's very surface, superficial, and materialistic. And all of our energy is on just trying to survive, and if not survive, then prosper, but it's just materially. And so what this has done for me is opened me up to the whole realm of human experience. And so I can be connected with my spirit while being connected with my human or material self, and kind of find a way to merge those two. So the spirit is always present and guiding me. And I don't know, it's kind of like that enables me to tap into my superpowers, enables me to show other people how to do that as well. Because all humans have this capability and this birthright. And it's just a matter of being open to it and giving yourself the opportunity to discover what your talents are.
I like that, superpowers.
It is. You become super. It's so amazing. It's like we don't know the amazing beings that we are as humans. And I've started to get a little glimpse of some of that. And to be able to connect with the ancestors, be able to connect with the universe, and connect with angels and other deities and beings, and make that part of your everyday experience and how you interact with your partner and your children and your job or your business. That's the way to live. You position yourself where your spirit is leading you, and your humanity is following your spirit. And the value in that is you have access to your truth and your answers, and you could make your decisions on a spirit level first, and then on a human level, and your human level of interaction and choice and decision making is on a much more evolved and higher vibration. And so it's interesting, being a channel and a psychic. When you see the soul from spirit's perspective and see the human from spirit's perspective, you see this huge expanded field of possibility and awareness, to the point where with spirit there's no judgment, there's no good, there's no bad, there is unconditional love and acceptance, and there's this underlying grain of possibility and positivity in any and every experience, however debilitating or traumatic or painful. And seeing yourself from that place kind of lets our fear and our insecurities and our programming start falling by the wayside, and we're able to know what our path is and be guided by spirit on that. So to me, that's most important. If you want to give yourself the gift of you, it's in whatever way you resonate with, connecting with your spirit and learning how to be led by it.
Absolutely. My name is Nicole Brock, as you stated. I've been with the Atlanta Fire Department for nearly 17 years. I am a paramedic. I came into the holistic aspect of medicine just by dealing with patients and having a daughter and granddaughter who has sickle cell. And so health is a huge issue in my home. And doing it holistically has been a venture that I've wanted to embark on for many, many years. I considered going into nursing and other things, but I honestly believe that the pharmaceutical aspects of life has proven to actually be very detrimental to most of the patients that I encounter. And it was I would say in the last 5-6 years that I realized that there are other alternatives that will improve one's health. And so one of the things that I looked into was the holistic side of medicine. And not all Western medicine is bad, but there's always a limit. So I'm here with you today to introduce one of the techniques that I have come across as part of my holistic treatment, if you will. And we have Dr. Amani that's laying on what is called an infrared mat. Biomat was the original maker, if I'm not mistaken. Biomat is what a lot of people commonly hear, but this is more of an infra mat, which means that it has infrared light technology that's infused into this. Now these are, in this mat, it's filled with jade, tourmaline, and amethyst, different stones. So it's also called the Taj mat. And the Taj mat, the science behind the Taj mat came from years and years ago when jewel miners would mine the jade and amethyst and tourmaline mines. And those people were, for whatever reason, not getting sick. So the concept came about to take all of that, put it in a mat, and allow that to heal other people. And of course, with this mat, this comes with infrared technology. The infrared technology, which is called PEMF, which is the far infrared light. And what it does is it assists with, gives energy. It also reduces inflammation. It will improve circulation. Also helps with your immune system, boost your immunity. And if you have any kind of backaches, any aches and pains, there's also temporary relief from that. It helps with nearly all of the body systems. So what also Dr. Mani is laying on is a Taj towel pillow, which also assists. Now the mat that she's laying on is heated, and even if you lay here while she's laying here, you can actually feel the energy flow through her body. And the biggest thing with the infrared light, the biggest positives with the infrared light and the energy that comes through it is it decreases all the free radicals that are in the air. And we know that free radicals are what's the cause of a lot of the cancers and the disease processes that go on in the world. So what you want to do is, these mats are affordable. And when you calculate how much it costs for pills, doctor's visits, co-pays, what they didn't pay, now you gotta pay, you can take that same amount of money and invest in a mat of this sort and actually get a lot of healing from it. I had a patient 2 days ago when I was at work, and she just gotten released from the hospital, from the ER. They'd given her several prescriptions, but one prescription was $200. And I said, well, why didn't you get your prescription filled? Because if you had gotten your prescription filled, we probably wouldn't be back here. And then, of course, that's when she said it was too expensive. And she was in a lot of pain. But again, like I say, that's the way the world works with pharmaceutical companies, is that they make it so hard for you to even afford to pay for the Western medication that you have to have, because if you don't know anything else, you have to have the medication in order to take your body out of pain. So, these are the things I really try to be proactive in the community in educating, especially our community, that there is a holistic way of getting yourself into a healing state, into a healthier state. And it may be just because the side of town that I work on, I run into, of course, all of my patients for the most part are African American. The community is African American. But, we've got to figure out some kind of way, how do we bring these educated views into the community? And I really appreciate that this video is going out to people, in the community and help with the education of it. And so, how do you feel, Dr.
Wonderful.
It is, I'm telling you.
That feels great.
Yes. And it actually heats to various temperatures, to your degree, absolutely. And it comes with a foil that we could slide on, and it would create a sauna effect. So that way you kind of keep all of the heat, and it penetrates the entire body. But you continue to lay there, because I'm telling you, you will feel that energy come through that mat. It is amazing. After I get off, I feel 1,000% better. And so, in addition to ensuring that we get our community healthy with holistic medicine, and not necessarily holistic medicine, but holistic and non-traditional ways of healing, another thing that we have to incorporate and remember to incorporate in our system is our diet. That's a huge thing. I've watched What the Health. I recently watched a movie called The Magic Pill on Netflix. Very interesting. They're both very interesting topics of diet and exercise. Speaking about diet, one of the things that from owning and running a vegan restaurant, or mostly vegan restaurant, vegan-friendly restaurant, was learning the aspects of what does it take to be healthy. And even in watching the common things that I saw with What the Health, and also with the movie, this recent movie, The Magic Pill. Of course, What the Health was more of a vegan-centered movie, staying away from animals. The Magic Pill movie kind of talked about how you can still eat animals, but you would feed grass-fed meats versus just anything, the hormone genetically modified foods. But the common denominator that I found in it was that what really hurts us all is the process. It's the way food is processed. They went, and in fact, with the Magic Pill, they went to Aborigine colony, went to a little township, and it was just purely Aboriginal people. And the Aborigines were talking about how 30 years ago, they had no health issues. They lived forever, they had nothing. And now there were some, men that came in, men alone came in and introduced them to pastas and different processed foods. And now they said that their community is stricken with diabetes, asthma, various medical issues that they're not accustomed to, but now it's killing them. And so we have to look at it in our own community. I remember getting WIC years ago, and I can go through the WIC out, right down the line in the grocery stores, and you see all the WIC stuff is processed cereal, that off-brand cereal, everything, canned goods. You get just some cans, but everything was so processed. And so there's a farm in Atlanta and this is something that was incredibly noble. It's a farm in Atlanta. If you have EBT, they double your veggies. They will give you twice the amount of veggies or fruits and vegetables, because they're looking to improve the health and wellness of people who are on welfare, who can't afford to buy food in the grocery store. And plus the choices are awful in the grocery store. We went to like 2 different grocery stores, just looking to find organic, strictly organic, and non-processed. So my husband had picked up like 2 or 3 boxes of cereal at Costco. I kicked him down the aisle. So we're not doing that. We're not doing this. You're not going to have cereal, because this stuff is all processed. It contains wheat. I remember years ago, I never heard of celiac disease. I never heard of this word. And it's probably, I don't even know what's in the last 10 years that it's actually been a big thing. And then when I talk to some people, like, I've had it for 20 years, but you must have been like one of the very, very few people, or far and few between folks, that would have had celiac disease. But now it's becoming more and more prevalent that, people are coming up with celiac disease. And for those that don't know, celiac disease is an allergy to wheat and gluten. So that tells you that that's a process issue. Because why would wheat change? Wheat's always been around. It's in the Bible. There's nothing different. And so you never read about, celiac disease any time, and like I said, cancer is more prevalent. But this is because of the way that things are processed. So that's some of the things that we have to look at as well. Also in the restaurant, we served alkaline water, and a lot of people aren't really, and that's an expensive machine, but it's an investment. You know, it's something that you have to invest in. When you look at your health and where do you want to be and how healthy do you want to be, you have to take into account what are you taking into your body. I ran into a lady at the airport. She's from Flint, Michigan, and she says the water's still not right in Flint. So, you know, that's a scary thing. Right here in Atlanta, just last week, 3 days ago, I believe, when I was at work, they were passing out bottles of water because they had a broken water main that had been broken for a long time. And I mean, we passed by the guys fixing the water main. However, these people were out of water for a long time. And then they started looking into even the bottles of water and looking into the water that had issues with the water. You know, every so many liters or gallons of water, they found like bacteria and things in the water. So that's a scary thing, you know. So that's the kind of stuff that we have to look at as far as health is concerned, and how do we correct? How do we make ourselves aware of what's going on in the world? You know, what we take in. How long do we live? 6 shots, 2 here, 2 here, and 2 right here in the eyes. Literally right there.
Shots up by your eyes.
Injections.
Oh,
absolutely. No. Yeah. So these were for, but I went to him because I had ear pains. And so his thing was, we want to give you these shots because you have migraines. Mm-hmm. Okay, I know I have migraines. Okay, you fix this right here. So the entire time he's asking me, so how does your ear, like after he finishes, so now how's your head? Well, still got this ear pain. What we gonna do with the ear pain? I gotta get this fixed. Like, I don't know about my head because I didn't come here from my head. I came here because my ears hurt. Mm-hmm. So then another doctor, I finally said, I'm going to another doctor. Went to another doctor, he says, well, you have TMJ. TMJ. So I said, okay, we're getting somewhere now. And I said, well, why is the TMJ affecting my ears? Like, how is that? He's like, well, and then my mom's husband is a ENT doctor as well. And so he was saying you don't have, they both said, because I would ask everybody, you know what you're talking about. So if your ears don't have pain receptors, mm-hmm. So the closest thing, I mean your jawline doesn't have pain receptors, so the closest thing to have pain receptors would be right here in your ears. Mm-hmm. Well, because I guess it's more bone, so you don't have your pain receptors in the bone. Mm-hmm. So the closest place to your pain is going to be right in your ears, so that's why you're feeling it. Mm-hmm. So they give me back, they're giving me Bactrim or whatever, antibiotics and some other stuff, and my sinuses were all messed up, just all kinds of whatever. Pain was so bad that I couldn't sleep at night. And so finally I was like, you know what, I've got like natural stuff to do this. So I lay on this at night, I have no pain. I take no pain medicine anymore. Wow. I have no pain and I sleep. I'm just laying on the pillow. If I don't lay on it, I mean, I can feel it coming back. But when I lay on this, it's extremely painful.
What is the pillow?
This is tau. So it's tourmaline, amethyst, and I can't remember the O.
Yeah,
let's forget the O. Like what is the O? It's not onyx. I think it's onyx. So I'm looking here, black onyx. That's it. That's onyx.
Is that heated as well as the mat?
This doesn't heat. Okay. This isn't heated, but unfortunately, the mat does. The mat is heated. How they came about, I don't know if any of you guys are aware about with the Taj mats. Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's heated is where they do the mining for jade, where they do the jade mines. Where they go in the little township area. Mm-hmm. They wondered why no one was getting sick. No one who mined in the jade mines got sick. And so they started putting it together that it's something, of course, gets really hot down in the jade mines, you know, and then, the amethyst, where they mine the amethyst, so it's a lot of heat, and then, of course, with the stones being in there. So they started putting 2 and 2 together. There must be something about heating stones, and particularly tourmaline and amethyst and jade and, these stones. So that's how they ended up incorporating these stones into crystals, into like these mats that have such a healing. And I was telling you earlier that, literally you can lay on it and you'll feel the energy. Like you can feel the energy, and I can run my fingers across your shoulder blades and feel the actual energy coming from the PMF. It actually, it's with PMF as well. So and that keeps with the emissions, all the radicals, the free radicals in the air. So that's what helps with the healing. Okay, and so now back with our, another addition to the mat would be the length of time that would be recommended. When I do my sessions, you can go anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. I recommend an hour because of all of our cell phones and the different technologies, computers, our laptops, and we usually spend hours on that. So 1 hour on a mat for once a week is probably about the minimum that I would do, depending on your lifestyle. Now the mat is set where you can actually spend 3 hours, 6 hours, or 12 hours. You can actually sleep on the mat overnight and get your healing on throughout the night. You also have, again, the heat, and you can turn, I don't know if you can see the lights a little bit. You can turn the lights on and off. Here. And then that'll turn the lights off. But you really want to keep with the lights on and stay with your energy flows. The mats come in different sizes. You can actually get a mat that is half this size, where you can just use it while you're sitting in a chair at work. You can have a full mat, or I want to say there's another mat that actually will cover an entire queen size bed. But this I recommend as a nice start to what your healing and health goals are. This is perfect. Also, with the mat treatment, we do have the aromatherapy. We also have a healthy tea drink, depending on what you're here for or what you come to what you have me at your house for. We have teas, different various teas that we will make. If you need a cleanse tea, if you need feel like you have a cold, we have like throat tonic tea, we have, it's a whole range of teas that we actually take in and fix. So that kind of helps with the whole flowing of the body and healing. And we also do a nice alkaline, it's made with alkaline water. And so that is in addition to helping with flushing toxins out of your skin. So it helps with being on the mat. And like I said, it helps reduce inflammation. She'll feel energy because we've been here for a few minutes now. So eventually she'll feel the energy coming through. It also helps with improving the immune system. And so I would just recommend that a person do this on a regular basis. As I was speaking before, I have, at the end of the month, I'm scheduled to have sinus surgery. But that's because I had tons of pain coming from my sinus area. I do have a deviated septum that's pretty bad. And I went to the doctor, had a CAT scan done, and they were like, oh, you see all the white stuff? It's like, yeah, that's not supposed to be here. So I was like, wow, but this is before, because I had gotten off the mat. I didn't realize how important the mat was. I made this investment, and I started getting busy with life, and I just didn't take time to treat myself. And so once I realized, I said, you know what, hold on. I'm not for the surgery thing, because not where I'm trying to go. Because again, I believe in the holistic aspects of it. So I said, I've got my mat. I've got my mat. I have the pillow. What am I doing? What do I have in my own arsenal to assist my own health? Because this is, how can you be a holistic person going to the doctor? We're going to have this unnecessary surgery. And so I said, let me just pull my mind, because the pain was so bad that I literally would not sleep at night. And if I did, I might have gotten about 30 minutes worth of sleep, if I got that. And then the rest of the night, I was just in dire pain, and then I just sit there and kind of just meditate and just get some quiet. And that would just barely scratch the surface of my head pain. And so again, I said, okay, let me go to the mat. I've probably been doing my mat for about, I would say 2 weeks. But day one, the first night I slept on the pillow, it was gone. I slept all night. I could not believe myself. I said, this is, I know it works. I know that in my head, but when it actually did it instantaneously, it made a believer out of me. So I slept every night. And so now I sleep every night either on my pillow, I have a pillow, I get on the mat and I lay here for about an hour or two. Before I go to bed, I take my shower, I lay down and stretch my covers over it, and I just lay there and I meditate. And I have had 0 ear pain in 2 weeks. Which I was ready, the day that the doctor told me that, I was ready to say, well what, we got time today, right? Because I was just in so much pain. Like it was so bad. Like, what are you doing at 12? Like after lunch? Let's get this over with. But then, but the better part of me wanted to do is still go more traditional, maybe less traditional, and go more of a healthy, non-Western medicine route. And so that's how I came into realizing that I had a tool in my arsenal kit that I knew was helping other people. I knew, I could see it, but it just, I just got myself into such a place that I didn't realize to use it for myself. And so with that I did. And so how you feeling? You still feeling good?
Wonderful.
To wrap it up though, I want to definitely bring it back home with, when you're looking at it, so it's not just the laying on the mat and living a bad lifestyle. This is actually making a major lifestyle change. Because even with that, I still eat healthy with my vegan diet. I still take advantage of my teas, drinking my teas, taking in the alkaline water, going to not necessarily an all raw diet, but incorporating more raw foods, more produce section type of foods, like with the broccolis and fruits and the vegetables. Still doing the smoothie, the all natural smoothies. That helps out a lot. Taking in a lot of the greenery. So my skin has changed. I used to have like the worst skin. Like even it was so bad. I would break out in rashes that you could probably see a mile away, and I couldn't understand exactly what was going on and why. Because I'm like, I wash my face, I do all this stuff to my face. What is it that I'm getting into that's causing me to actually break out? And then I realized it was such my diet, the things that I was taking in, the processed foods. So I do no longer do I'm not doing any more of the pastas. We were talking about early. I'm not doing anything that comes from the process. Has a process to it. If it can't be naturally grown, then it won't. You can't participate.
Thank you for being with us today. And we know that you enjoyed our awesome, incredible speakers. And we certainly appreciate you as being a part of this groundbreaking historic event. And so we invite you to tomorrow perhaps invite a couple more of your friends over, or how about at your church or your synagogue or your mosque, invite people and have a viewing party so that you can have a discussion afterwards. And so we look forward to being with you tomorrow with another group, anywhere from 5 to 7 incredible individuals that's going to share of their expertise, their love, their passion, because our speakers cover a wide variety of subjects, and it's things that you can immediately put into effect in your life. So thank you for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.